Hi, Andrew. Right.
Good, thanks, Michael.
Just get the team news ahead of the game against Newcastle, please.
Where are we at? The main ones, I guess, Dom Solanke, close, but I think we'll err on the side of caution. He won't play on the weekend with the international week. We're kind of made the decision to wait till after that. Bentancur's all good. He's trained well, gone through all the protocols, and most importantly, he feels really good training-wise. And the other one this week was Richie, pulled up sore. I think there's an injury there, muscle injury, which is just getting more information, but he'll be out as well. I think that's it.
Okay, mixed bag then.
Yeah.
Obviously, deadline day. Done some really good business. Dominic Solanke, Archie Gray, Wilson, a few others, Lucas from January. Is that it now, do you think, in terms of incomings?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think unless something surprising jumps out at us in the last 11 hours or whatever it is. But no, I think that's it for us.
Just in the Europa League draw, some cracking ties. Rangers, I bet you can't wait for that one.
No, exciting. Good to be a part of it, and some good games, and I'm sure I'll get a warm reception at Ibrox. They'll be looking forward to seeing me. Yeah.
Let's hope it's still at Hampden. In terms of that, though, the squad, obviously there were some injuries last season with no Europe. If there are no incomings today, though, are you happy cover-wise, the odd injury here and there? Are you overall happy with the strength of the squad and the size?
Yeah, look, if nothing else happens, I mean, there's still a couple probably will be moving out, but if nothing else happens, then I think it's been another positive window for us. I think, as I said, all along you want to go into every window and sort of come out the other side of it, in a stronger sense. I certainly feel that. I think the players who've bought in are already making a short-term impact, but even for the longer term, I think are going to be really good contributors for us. I think we've got a better sort of well-rounded squad to deal with Europe and the extra games and whatever injuries we have. And so I think it's been a real positive window.
If that is it, you always said you can't do everything in one window. This will be like your third transfer window. Looking back from the squad you inherited, a lot of big names have gone out as well. Maybe not sort of fit in your system. Overall, happy overall with the progress?
No, as I said, I'm very happy. I think we've done a hell of a lot of work in the last 12 months, 3 windows, as you said. No doubt the squad's changed. I think the demographic of the squad's changed. The suitability to the kind of football I want to play is certainly we're much better equipped for that. There's growth in the team, absolutely. I think we needed to do some fairly major work 12 months ago, and I think in the 12 months since, I think we've gone a long way to kind of getting the team to where we want to, but there's still more work to be done. I've said that before. It was never going to happen quickly. I don't think it should happen quickly. I think when it does happen quickly, it's you're more fraught to getting it wrong. So I think we're in a good place.
Charlie.
And firstly, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I'm glad you remembered. I totally dismiss it. And too late, mate. Forget it. Go on.
It's too late. Sorry, Michael. It's someone else's birthday. It's Eve's birthday today. And you said that last week he trained like a child who's been told off. And, of course, he went on to score his first Spurs goal last weekend. I just wonder, how has he trained this week? And in terms of that goal, what do you want to see more from him in games? Is it controlling the passage of play in midfield, or is it goals and assists?
Look, I mean, I don't want to be too sort of flippant about it, because at the same time, we've said all along, this is about, trying to guide Biss so that he becomes, the best version of himself, both on and off the field. And, there's no doubting his qualities as a player. I think, from the moment I've arrived, every time he's been fit, I think he's played. So that's how highly I rate him. But at the same time, we feel there's areas of his game that he can improve, just around sort of, a word I use a lot, his discipline in terms of his positioning, in terms of, the way he plays the game. But a lot of that is, again, there's a correlation to off-field as well. And I think, he's been really, focused and since the incident, and he understands. I think him not playing that first game sort of really hurt him, as it should. I think you can find players, but when they don't play, I think they feel it more. And he doesn't want to be in that position again, and he knows that not just for himself but for the whole group. We need him to be at his best so that he can contribute to the team, and he'll only do that if he continues to show the same focus and discipline he has.
And what have you made to the start to the season of James Maddison? Because we've seen such a positive start, similar to last season. Yeah,
he's been good, Maddison, really good. I think I said last week, when Maddison is physically in a good place, knock on wood, and he really is. His training's excellent. It's consistent. We know he's such a creative force in this league. He's done it for many years. So great to have him back up and running. And I think he's been excellent the first two games. And I can see in him that he really wants to take his game up another level, and hopefully he can.
And in terms of Newcastle on Sunday, they've obviously got a really good recent record against Spurs. The game in Australia, I know it was a friendly, but it was much closer. So what can you take away from those games last season going into Sunday's match? Yeah,
a bit of a contrast. I thought, obviously here at home we did really well against them, but fair to say up there we didn't. But it was a good learning sort of curve for us, that game, because we started the game okay, but then we conceded, and we kind of lost, probably for the first time all year, our composure in the game, and we allowed them to score quickly, and what it's like up there. The crowd created a brilliant atmosphere for their team, and we just didn't handle it at all well. It was a good sort of learning curve for a lot of our players who, it was their first sort of exposure to a game like that, to an atmosphere like that. So, obviously we want to have learnt from that, but it's still a tough game. I think any time you go up, play against Newcastle on their home ground, it's a tough game. They've got some outstanding players in their team. They're well coached, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Thanks, Ange.
Ian.
Hi, Ange, and can I reiterate happy 58th birthday for this week, as some people forgot?
Yeah, well, it's my 59th, so you're being even kinder to me.
Okay, fine, there we go. The Europa League draw, apart from Rangers, which obviously a lot of people will look at, there's some really excellent ties, but also it gives you a block of 8 games. And last season, because Spurs went in Europe and went out League Cup early, I think bemoaning is a fair word to use. The lack of games, actually your team had to get your team to play how you want and mix players around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I said on a number of occasions. I think people, were kind of trying to sort of steer me towards the fact that less games means we're sort of fresher for the league, which in some respects that works, but it doesn't work when, like us, we had a lot of injuries and we were putting in players who hadn't had a lot of football because we just didn't have the volume of games. Whereas now, it allows you now with the fixturing to get into a rhythm of knowing we've got 2 games a week pretty much right through till the end of January for the most part. Players within the whole squad will get utilised. So if we do have injuries, we're not throwing on somebody who hasn't played for 6 or 7 weeks. And like I said, it allows you to get into a rhythm. So, it means less training time, but hopefully we've had a good training block leading up to this sort of international window that sets us up for the rest of the year. So, look, I'd much prefer having a program like we have from now till sort of the end of January than sort of what we faced last year.
So you're a fan of the new format as well?
Oh, it's interesting. Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting concept. Couple of extra games, the league format. I think it's different dynamics sometimes. In the group stages when it was, maybe after 3 games the whole thing was done and dusted. But I think it'll be alive a lot more now, right until probably the 8th game, because teams are fighting for positions. So I think there'll probably be less dead rubbers in European football, which I don't think is a bad thing. So happy to see how it works.
In this day and age, players staying at clubs for a long time is relatively unheralded. Ben Davies has been here 10 years. Sonny has been here 9, played over 400 games in all competitions. What do those sort of players give to you as a manager in terms of when you're coming in and you're wanting to change as you have?
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of a rare occurrence, particularly at big clubs where players stay for that sort of length of time. But yeah, credit to both those guys that they've stayed at this club and played under numerous top managers, and they've all sort of rated them very highly to keep them at the club. And look, they're both great guys. I think they understand what the football club's about. It's great when you've got 18-year-olds walking into a dressing room, and probably two of the first people who will go and greet them are Sonny and Ben, and I'm quite comfortable in them being their first points of contact, because they're outstanding people apart from being fantastic footballers. So yeah, I think it's great, and it's only right that they get heralded in terms of their not just longevity, but the kind of service they've provided.
Finally, the important deadline day is tomorrow. Are you ready to get your Oasis tickets? I hear you're a big Oasis fan.
Yeah, no, I'll be queuing up, mate, overnight. No, great band, great music. Yeah, not on my radar at the moment, thanks. Yeah.
Favourite song?
No, Wonderwall. Okay, there you go.
George?
Angelo, I just wondered, in terms of outgoings, if you can just give us an update on Lo Celso and Reguilón, please, and whether you think they'll be staying, or possibly next week is another transfer window.
Yeah, true. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. Fair to say, I think both players exploring options, and I don't get too involved in that part of it. That's between sort of the players' representatives and the club. But as you said, there's today, but there's other windows open as well. So. Yeah, we'll see what sort of activity there is, but both are exploring options. Yeah.
In terms of the transfer window as a whole, when you joined Tottenham, I know you just mentioned major work. Did you know how much work was needed? Because you've had such a huge number of players come in and out. And why is it so important to just get players out as well as get new ones in? What does that do for you as a manager? If you could just explain your thinking on the window as a whole over the three.
Yeah, look, I mean, you never really know until you're right into it, I guess, because you kind of can never assess players until you've worked with them. And it's fair to say there's been, it was a fair departure from sort of the way the club, was playing its football to sort of the way I wanted to play, good, bad or otherwise. It was just different. So when it's different, and I think there was, it was a team that I think was naturally coming to the end of a cycle anyway, a team that, had great success in terms of that era of players. So it was kind of coming. So it was a combination of, I guess, me coming in with a different approach and also the end of a cycle. So I knew there'd be some, to put it in gardening terms, mate, it wasn't about pruning. It was a bit more than that. So, and not that I'm a gardener, I've got no idea what I just said is right. But so we had to do some major work, and I've said before, part of that process is that you need to get players out just to create the space for others to come in. So sometimes it's not even a judgment on the player as such. You say, what, you could keep that player around, but that means I can't bring somebody else in, So you're kind of always looking at, contracts is an obvious one, who's coming to the end of a contract or in the last 2 years of a contract, because they're kind of more likely to be able to move rather than others. So all those kind of things. So there's a lot of things that you kind of put out, as a framework of how much you can change a squad in sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 windows. And I think we've just about gone to the maximum in terms of turnover without it affecting competitiveness, because obviously, we finished 5th last year, which was a decent outcome for us in terms of where we were. But, you don't want to be doing this and finishing 8th or 10th or, falling off sort of the top side of the table. So it's always a balancing act. But like I said, I feel we've done the maximum we could without it disrupting our competitiveness. It's not finished by any stretch, but I'm happy that we've kind of stuck to the plan in terms of discipline of just bringing players who we think can contribute short term, long term, but also suitable to the football we want to play. And sort of not get too caught up on sort of being in any rush to fast track a process.
Is it risky doing that in terms of, you've got no idea how they're going to gel, so when you think about changing so many players, Does part of you think, oh, maybe we might have gone too far, or you think, I know you're saying you've heard on the, but is there a risk?
Yeah, there is, yeah. But there's risk in everything you do. There's no sort of sure path in any which way you go. All I got to rely on is kind of my knowledge and my history in the game, that usually, wherever I've been, and fair to say wherever I've been, I've had to overhaul squads. There's a process that I kind of go through, which for the most part works, and that's what I've got to rely on in terms of that. I'm not just saying, well, let's just get rid of 10 players and bring in 10 players. It's a bit more sort of hopefully methodical than that, so that we try and get as many right as we can, because you're never going to get them all right. I think that's the other fallacy about transfers. People think, you got to have 100% hit rate. That's impossible, because if you're bringing every player in and they're great, there's only 11 positions in the team. So there's always going to be guys who are going to miss out. So if you've got a really good transfer policy, it probably means that's at about 70 or 80%, because there's always going to be a 20 to 30% attrition rate just because you've got everyone right. So that's kind of the measurements I've always worked with. And, I think while there was risk, I think you can mitigate that risk by sort of sticking to a process.
Down to George, please. Jack, please, sorry.
Hi, Ange. Do you feel like you've been backed this window?
Yeah.
And in terms of the age profile that you were talking about, was that always the explicit plan from the start, and how important do you think that is for the club?
Yeah, well, it was definitely part of my plan, because I think when you're trying to build or rebuild a team, you've got to, look, all managers hope they're there for the long term, but the reality is that, you don't know how long you'll be there. But I've always kind of tried to build teams that will last, over a cycle, which is, 3, 4, 5 years. So you need, as just a sort of natural consequence of that, you're looking at a younger demographic, a team that will grow, that will improve, that will, adapt to the challenges ahead. So, like I said, when I got here, it was a team that even from a demographic point of view, looked like it was at the end of a cycle. A lot of players who kind of had great careers were kind of either ready to move on or getting to the end of it. So that combination with, like I said, a different approach, for me, was definitely part of it to go younger.
So before you got here, Spurs didn't really have many young players in the team, but now there's a lot of guys here aged between 18 and 23. How does that change the feel around the place, and how does it change your job?
Doesn't really change my job, but, I guess young people bring an energy to it, and, they're excited to be here. They're excited to be at this football club, excited to be playing in the Premier League, I guess, and excited by the challenge ahead. And I think it's a good environment they've come into, because the senior players we do have are, all guys who are still very, very motivated and ambitious as well. So, and I think, it allows them to grow together. They're all kind of in that similar part of their careers, which invariably you're going to have challenges individually and collectively. And I think if they experience them together, it allows them, I think, to overcome those, in a better way.
Finally, do you think it's easier to teach your style of football to a younger player than to a 30-year-old?
No, it depends. It just depends on the player, It depends on the mindset of the player. I think Sonny is as much a willing learner as Archie Gray, I think it just comes down to the individual. I think it is sometimes easier with younger players, because obviously they're a little bit more open to maybe doing things a different way. But I think in the current climate of, where the world's at with young people, you still, it's not like me, I just tell them what to do and they do it. I think those days are long gone. There still needs to be a narrative of why we're doing what we're doing. And young players now want to be coached. They definitely want the information. They want to know why I'm asking them to do certain things. But again, I enjoy that aspect of it.
Okay, finish this section with Ali, please.
Just want to ask you about the centre-backs department. Looking from the outside, obviously last season Davinson Sanchez moved on and you were left with 3 natural centre-backs and then others that could kind of fill in. Kind of feels like maybe Radu Dragic has swapped in terms of numbers with Eric Dyer, and maybe you're in a similar position in terms of 3 natural centre-backs. Is that something, there was any temptation to maybe add another natural centre-back?
No, and I don't think we're in the same position. I think Radu's a different proposition for us, and certainly with Archie coming into the group and Jed probably not being in the plans initially, but now I think we're in a much different position than we were last year. We've got Ben Davies as well, obviously, who can play as centre-back or at left-back. So, but again, I mean, that's the discipline of it. You know, yeah, we can go out and sign another centre-back, but if the right player's not there, I'm not going to do it. That's as simple as that. I never have, I never will. For me, it's about getting the right people into, and you know, there wasn't an opportunity for us to bring in someone who I thought was going to add to our group, so we don't do it. We've got Ashley Phillips, we've got young Luka Vuskovic who are available again next year, 2 young centre-backs. I don't want to block their pathway by doing something now that, you know, might look from the outside like, you know, we've got another player, but if that player's not going to be suitable to what we're doing, not going to fit in, why would I bring them in, potentially block, you know, the path for somebody else?
And Richarlison, just want to ask you, how frustrating is it, probably for him as well as yourself, that he's just never really got a rhythm as a Spurs player?
Yeah, that's a challenge, I guess, and it's something we've got to look at again. He's been in that cycle for quite a while, him predating me, I guess, and you know, we've put a lot of thought. We took it really sort of conservatively with him. You know, this time, you know, he didn't play in any of the pre-season games. You know, he's really only played 20 minutes of sort of first-team football. But again, you know, obviously he's had a setback, so it's something we're just going to again go sort of back with Richie and sort of work through the steps now of getting him back up and running. Because you know, when he's fit, he's such a handful. Even last week, that 20 minutes he played, you can see, you know, the kind of, you know, the options he gives us in that position. But you know, it's like I said, frustrating probably for him as much as anyone else, but frustrating for us too. But you know, it's a reason we kind of brought Dom in. But obviously he picked up an injury in the first couple of games. But again, you know, it's something we'll work with Richie with.
Apologies for a bit of a hypothetical, but if Lascelles and Reguilon don't get moves, is that a situation where you just kind of have to integrate them back into your squad, or does it become a little bit of a problem for you?
No, no. They don't have to get integrated back to the squad. I mean, it's their decisions. I mean, you know, it's pretty clear where they sit in terms of where we are as a squad and where we are as a team. But you know, I've never been one to force people out. They've got decisions about their own careers and what they want to do. And you know, if they're still here, they're still here. We'll work around that scenario, but it certainly won't affect the way we work in the first team.